Hi, welcome. I am going to share a story and experience of mine, and some of you have heard bits and pieces and are watching this just to get the whole story. Others of you were led here to see this specifically, but I'm hoping that it maybe gives some hope, or some peace, some insight, confirmation, validation, whatever you may call it, for those that are on the path of spiritual awakening. To give a little bit of backstory about this event, about 6 years ago, I had a very traumatic incident happen, physical violence, so to speak. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life, and this person that carried that out intended to destroy everything about my life afterwards, and was pretty successful. And at the time, I was very much in a position where I had a really good job and I thought really highly of myself and I had everything together and I was on this great path. And all of that was taken away in an instant. And I didn't care anymore. I lost hope and faith in humanity, and I just went inward and went into the darkness. Became a very, very, very bad alcoholic and had a pain pill addiction along with that. And I drank 1 to 2 large bottles of vodka a day and pop pain pills on top of that. And I got fired a couple of times and didn't care anymore. And then that led to eventually I was initially given what I thought was Adderall, capsules of Adderall, is what I was told, but then found out that it was methamphetamine, and by the point in time that I had found out, I was already hooked on it, and made the conscious choice to continue doing it. And then it turned into an IV addiction, and so for about 2.5 years, I was an IV meth addict. And all of that led up to, and basically that was my very dark night of the soul, so to speak. Everything was happening to me. The world was against me. Everything was unfair and just sad darkness, but really me. And at the same time, old things were falling away, old thought patterns I had and illusions that I had, and things were being revealed to me. And I kept thinking there was this big answer, that everyone knew this answer except me, and everyone just kept telling me I was paranoid and it was the drugs, but I just knew in my soul that something bigger was coming, something huge, and that there would be this revelation. Eventually, and there's a whole story about how this happened, but I eventually ended up having a near-death experience, and it was progressive over about a week's time. I had been given a very large amount of meth, and then it started spinning me out, and I started having these experiences. But basically, due to that, I wasn't eating, sleeping, or drinking anything, and so physically my body started to give out. And as that started happening, I started experiencing jumping through parallel realities. I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know what was happening. All of this has been since kind of revealed to me through my meditations and prayers and listening to that voice within. But I was popping through all of these different realities of myself where I just kept dying over and over and over and over and over again. And then eventually, when I started ending up in the emergency room, the experience that you would see from the outside looking in is this person on a gurney being taken into the emergency room. What I was experiencing was that I was being in this spiral pattern, just going up and going through different versions of myself. And I knew, and I was conscious and aware that this was me, but I was not this me. And again, I didn't know any of this at the time. Like, these are things that have come to me since the event. But I was going through higher levels of consciousness of myself until eventually I reached the unity consciousness, the Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it. I was connected to everyone and everything, everywhere, all at the same time. And all I was receiving was love, peace, bliss. It was this amazing, overwhelming feeling that the human body can't contain this amount. And then eventually I started spiraling back down, again through different versions of myself, different realities, till I came back into this form. Now, all of the up and the down happened over the course of about 2 or 3 days. I was in and out of the emergency room until I eventually finally woke up in the emergency room and was discharged and put in a cab and sent to the homeless shelter. And then when I got to the homeless shelter, that started a cascade of different events, happenings, transpirings, which, if there's an interest in that, I can go into a whole video about what happened and the synchronicities that happened while I was in the homeless shelter. But basically, I lived in a homeless shelter for 1.5 years. After the event, my experience, I still did meth kind of occasionally off and on until I went on like a 3-day bender, put it down, walked away, have never touched it since then. And I knew at that moment that it was just like a chapter of a book that was ending, and it was done, and I was done with this in my life, and I was moving on to something else. And basically I ended up starting to make sure that I had positive thoughts, to put good energy out there instead of being in that darkness, and it literally changed my world. Like, within a year, I ended up getting a nice apartment. I got a job at an amazing place that I love, and everything just started to automatically fall into place because I had changed. But I also have, and do have, this sense of peace because I have seen the man behind the curtain, so to speak. I know I don't know everything because we can't understand everything. There's so many facets and layers and avenues of it. I mean, there's so much that I was shown during that experience, but I know that I was allowed to remember all of it to be able to share it, because even if one person watches this and says, "Oh my God, thank you, this has helped me," because I know I've sought that validation. I just want to hear from somebody else that this has happened, or that they know this, and I do seek information, and I get information from many different avenues of spiritual faith. You have to find what resonates with you, and that's what's right for you, because each of us are on our own completely different path and have completely different ways of getting there. There may be moments that we kind of walk parallel to one another and we're kind of going through the same things at the same time, but ultimately, you are you, I am me, and we're all just trying to get there together. And there is an awakening happening. There are so many people that are becoming aware and that are seeking this. And I saw, if you want to see the ground zero for spiritual warfare and battles, you go to a homeless shelter. And it's evident. You see the completely light, you see the completely dark side of things too. And then it profoundly changes you. And I am so thankful for all of these experiences, and I'm so grateful that I've had them. And I don't know any more than you. I know all of the information I need to for right now for my growth. I'm not better than anyone else. I'm not more evolved than anyone else. I'm just going through it, just like you are. The one thing I do know is that we are spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. And I came back to remember what it's like to be human, to humble myself again, to understand that this isn't easy. Being human is not easy. And going through this is not easy. Because when you're up there experiencing the love and the bliss and all of that, you forget how hard it is to go through this. And that's why I came back, was to remember that. And I know that now. And to share my love and my light with others, and hopefully help others on their pathway as we all walk along together. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know if there's anything that stood out to you if I need to make another video. I kind of gave you the Reader's Digest version of it, but that's where I'm at right now, and I continue to grow, and I wish everyone love and light. Thank you.